Hey everyone, in today's video we're going to be talking about doing diagnostics on the W210 E270CDI. So normally when you do diagnostics on a car, you can grab your standard OBD2 reader and just plug it in somewhere under the dash. However, on this 2001 E270CDI, you can see where the OBD2 port would go, but it's just blanked off and there's nothing to plug into. The reason for this is that in 2001 it still wasn't a mandate to have an OBD2 port for a diesel powered passenger vehicle. However, that doesn't mean that you can't do diagnostics on W210s with diesel engines before 2003 when it became a mandate. In the fuse box in the engine bay, there's this round connector here which looks a bit like a trailer plug. This is known as the 38-pin Mercedes-Benz diagnostics port. This port can be plugged into and you can do diagnostics on the whole car, all of the modules including the ECU. However, to do that you need an expensive scan tool, which most people don't own, or you need to buy an adapter that converts that plug to a standard OBD2. Then you can only diagnose the ECU unless you have the very expensive scan tool that comes with this plug in the box. So in today's video, I'm going to do a bit of a wiring hack here. Instead of ordering an adapter for this, which I already tried to do, and I waited 2 weeks and then the order was cancelled due to it being out of stock. It's not a very high demand part, and in South Africa where I live, you can't just go to an auto parts store and buy an adapter like that. So instead, I've gone and done a bunch of research and found out which wires here I need to tap into, and I'm going to create my own little OBD2 harness to sit in this fuse box so I can plug my Bluetooth adapter in and do diagnostics on the ECU whenever I want to. So as mentioned, I did try and order an adapter harness from the 38-pin to the OBD2 plug, but it was out of stock and never came. So instead, I've ordered this OBD2 extension harness. So all it does is it plugs into an OBD2 port and extends the length so you can plug it into a, I don't know, some scan tools must come with a very short cable. Maybe your OBD2 port's in a hard place to reach, and that's why this harness exists. So what I'm going to do is essentially we are only going to use this side of this piece of wiring, because that's the side that my little Bluetooth scanner plugs into, and we're going to chop it off about there, expose all the wires, and then I'm going to show you on some wiring diagrams I found on the internet what wires here you need to connect to which wires on the car. Okay, so I have now gone and carefully stripped each of the individual wires inside of the connector. So next I'm going to open the diagram for the OBD2 port and show you which wires we will need to be working with. We're going to need a multimeter to check which wire goes to which pin on the connector. So here I have a diagram I found online. This is from a petrol engined E-Class from 2002. And this is the OBD2 port that would be found under the dashboard where I showed you in my car. There's just a blanking plate. As you can see, there's just 4 wires going to this, just so you can read the ECU, which is all I'm going to try and do with my scan tool. So on pin 16, going to need the red wire, which is going to be your positive. Then on pin 7, that is going to be white or black wire on the car's harness. That will go if you follow it, to the engine control module, also known as the ECU, and then just pin number 5 and 4 are going to be ground pins. So that's all you need to wire up to this connector. So it was pin 16, pin 7, pin 5, and 4. So that's going to be the next part, is taking the multimeter and finding which of these wires goes to those 4 pins. Okay, so I've been testing all the wires, and I actually haven't been able to make any continuity. And what I've realized is that the tip of the probe isn't making contact inside of the plug. So I'm just going to try putting, this is just a SIM card eject tool. So we're just going to try this, see if it, there we go. Okay, so we found our red wire, power wire. So we know this one is going to be our positive wire, and that is one of the 4 wires that we need to connect. So now I'm just going to take a piece of tape and write positive on it, just a little plus symbol, and just label this red wire so I know which one is which. There we go. So yeah, labeled it. Now I know this wire is the positive wire, and that's 1 down, 4 to go. Okay, that is pin 4, one of the 2 ground wires. Okay, this is pin 7, so that's going to be our ECU wire. So it turns out pin 5 isn't connected to anything, and from what I've read online, the 2 ground pins are redundant. So it's okay, we don't actually need that wire, but I'll double check, because that was while I was doing research. But yeah, I think with just 1 ground wire we should be sorted. So there we go. If you do happen to buy this exact adapter harness or extension harness, you're looking for the red, the black, and the yellow wire. Those are the 3 wires you need. Okay, we are back here under the bonnet of the car. So once again, we're going to need pin number 1, the ground pin. We're going to need pin number 3, which is your positive wire, and we are looking for, let's just follow it back here, pin 4. So 1, 3, and 4, those are the 4 wires we're going to be looking for here. Just turning it around, there we have our brown wire, and that goes Yeah, there's actually a number 1 there. Okay. I don't know if it's coming across on camera, but right there next to the wire there actually are little numbers, so I know which wires to tap into. So all I'm going to do to test this, because it's 3 wires, I'm going to try and just take a bit of insulation off this, wrap the wires from the adapter around it before I solder it, just to test that it works, and that it's worth soldering into this harness. Okay, sorry, this is difficult to film, but as you can see on my multimeter, I'm getting, whoa, okay, I've lost connection, but I was just getting 12.4 volts there, battery voltage, and that was from pin 1 and 3, which is our 12 volt positive and negative, or the ground. So it was just a sanity check before I cut into any of the other wires. Well, the one other wire for the ECU. Just wanted to make sure this was in fact the correct wiring diagram. So yeah, pin 1 and 3 are for power and ground. So I've confirmed that. Now, hopefully this will be the correct pin out. That pin 4 is in fact for the ECU. Even though this is a diesel and this diagram's for petrol, it should still be the same pin. I'm going to trim that wire, as I said, connect these and see what happens. Okay, so I have very temporarily joined those 3 wires, plugged in my scanner and turned on the ignition. I'm now gonna open my diagnostic app on my phone and see if it can connect. Okay, so you now join me a couple of days later after that first initial test. So what's actually happened in between is I've gone and soldered these the 3 wires, the red, black and yellow, onto the pins I last identified, and then here's the adapter, and this is my OBD scanner. It's just a ELM327 mini that I've plugged in there, and the reason I haven't filmed in a few days is I've been having trouble connecting to the car and reading trouble codes. I was able to connect that with the first test and successfully read live data. I could get readings from the sensors, such as the boost, the manifold air pressure sensor, the boost sensor, the intake air temperature sensor, coolant temperature sensor, the engine RPM. I'll show you all of them now that are working, but I was unable to read any codes. And to check if they were working, I unplugged the mass airflow sensor and there wasn't a code for it. But what I've come to realize is that because this car isn't OBD2 compliant, it doesn't actually bring up those codes. You have to have Mercedes Star diagnostic software or one of those expensive scan tools to be able to, I assume, get more in-depth diagnostic and codes from the car. But on the live data, you can actually see that the mass airflow sensor reading doesn't change when you are idling and when you rev up the car. So if you are clued up with sensors and how they work, then you will still be able to actually diagnose your car. This will actually help me diagnose problems I'll have in the future with this car. I know this sensor is bad, that's why it's unplugged. When it's plugged in, this car barely runs. It spews out black smoke out of the exhaust. It has no power. With it unplugged, the car is drivable. Thing is, it's just very expensive. It's like almost 2,000 Rand for a new sensor. So while I'm saving for that, I thought, okay, let me do this. This is a cheap and easy hack, just so I can make sure that this isn't the only problem. Maybe there's another sensor that's faulty, but I'll show you now. All of the other sensors seem to be working fine, so I can peacefully know that's all I need to replace, and this car will be back to 100%. Okay, so I have the iPad here with the OBD2 app that's communicating with Bluetooth, and you can see there it's flashing, busy communicating. So I'm currently scanning for DTCs or diagnostic trouble codes, and it's busy scanning right now, so I'm just waiting to see. We'll probably say none, and there are none so far, but yeah, once that's done I'll show you, and then also show you all of the sensors that are picking up. Okay, so as you can see, no diagnostic trouble codes found. So yeah, that's the current situation. Okay, it's just reconnecting, and then here on the dashboard you can see I'm getting all of these, so I can check my voltage, coolant temp. I had the car running a while ago, so it's at 36 degrees. Manifold pressure sensor, and you can see the mass airflow sensor is showing that 8.88, but it never changes, and even though the car is off now, it's still stuck on that intake air temp throttle. So all of these things, I'll start the car now, and just show you that it does in fact work. I'm just going to put this here on the sensor console. It may have disconnected, so just give it a second. Now, there we go. You can see the voltage is going up as the alternator starts charging the car. See, we're idling at about 700 RPM there. It's interesting to me, this monitor status is picking up a DTC, a diagnostic trouble code. But as I showed you just now, I tried to scan for codes, couldn't find any. Yeah, so I'll give it a bit of throttle just so you can see. You can see the RPMs increasing there. The manifold air pressure sensor value is changing. Throttle position also changed there. Calculated boost also did change, but I think that's inaccurate because the mass airflow sensor is stuck on this. You can see it just stays 8.88 no matter what. And yeah, coolant temps climbing. So yeah, all of this seems to be accurate. I'm quite pleased with this. Like I said, I do kind of wish that I was able to read the diagnostic trouble codes, that it would show a code for the mass airflow sensor being unplugged or with it plugged in being faulty, but it just doesn't show anything. Even though it does show here there is one code. Maybe it's just because I don't have the fancy scan tool, I can't actually read it. Either way, yeah, I think that's about it for this video. I'm quite pleased with this result. For the price, especially now, I actually have access to live diagnostic data. Yeah, so thing is also there is no check engine light on. That's just an airbag light there, and that light there's for the handbrake. There actually isn't any yeah, see there, no malfunction. Usually if there is like some kind of a warning, it will come up there on the car's screen. Yeah, so it also says there malfunction indicator light is off on the dashboard, which is correct. However, it does have a diagnostic trouble code, which I just can't read with a scan tool for some reason. So yeah, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. Thought it was cool. Leave a like, and yeah, leave maybe a comment as well if you have a suggestion or something to say. Otherwise, thanks for watching.